Oh, welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately titled IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association, and as part of our efforts to promote play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, which are conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find all of the Porch Play Chats, and there's like 225 of them that are free to you on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and getting notifications in Instagram. So if you follow us, friend us, or whatever we do on Instagram, subscribe to us, which is YouTube, all of the Porch Play Chats are free to you. You can find them if you go to ipausa.org. Up in the top right-hand corner are the links to each one of those sites that I just mentioned. So we hope you'll join us in doing that. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm the president of IPA USA. And with me on the porch today is LeeAnn, Soucy, and Kathy Gallo. We're so glad.
Hello.
Better known as the Two Pushy Dames. So just so you know. So LeeAnn and Kathy have worked in the early childhood field for more than 70 combined years, including Head Start, private childcare, and family childcare settings. Both hold master's degrees in early childhood education and teach a variety of courses in ECE at North Shore Community College and Salem State University. LeeAnn and Kathy have significant experience and a passion for teaching non-traditional and diverse adult learners, and believe in a hands-on approach to engaging people in dynamic teaching and learning at all levels. So today we're talking about making learning visible. And boy, you know, I think this is what teachers are always telling me. Well, I don't, you know, parents say all they do is play. And so I think this is a wonderful one to help them understand that if children learn through play, how in the world do we make that learning visible to others? So I think, I was so excited when I saw your title. So help
us.
It's
a big one.
Yeah,
it's a big one. I think practitioners and teachers of young children understand how critical play is, but they have pressure to do assessments and to look at particular curricula and to let parents know that they'll certainly be ready for kindergarten, even if they're only 18 months old. You know, so there's a lot of pressure on that. And we find that this particular topic can be one of those that we really need to dive a little bit into so that people feel comfortable with how to make that learning visible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, it's funny, this training is very much, it's well received by people that are out in the field. And I think part of it is, one of the things that we always say is, you know, you just don't want to say, oh, well, they're having fun or they're learning so much. I mean, that basic language doesn't relate well to parents. Parents need more. And like Kathy said, teachers know what they're learning and what they're getting out of the play, oftentimes when they're true play advocates. But what happens is it's not relayed to the parents well enough. And parents, obviously, with social media and with everything else out there, parents think their children need to be in front of Miss Rachel learning, or they need to be in front of the iPad, you know, doing alphabet games and things like that. And that, we all know, that is not helpful for young children at all. So parents need to be reassured, I think. I always joke and say, when my oldest was not even born yet, I bought her a Harvard sweatshirt. You know, every parent has their child thinking, I want my child to just be amazing and brilliant and, you know, have all the best of everything. Of course, that's how parents feel. So parents are very, you know, they're not early childhood practitioners. They don't get it like we do. So we need to teach parents. That's part of our job, I think. For sure.
I think that's really good advice, LeeAnn, and to use big words with parents. So if the children are playing with the Play-Doh and they're doing things with blocks or whatever it is throughout the day, when you say to the parents, oh yeah, they love it in the block area. No, how about, wow, your child has learned so much math today, the math concepts that they developed and the architectural skills and the eye for knowing how to build something is so keenly amazing. You know, you've got a future engineer on your hands, but But to talk about if they rolling balls through tubes, oh, we learned physics today. We talked about gravity and propulsion and velocity, and use big words like that, because the parents are going to say, oh, I thought you were just sitting, on the floor with yoga pants on, having fun all day with my child who just plays. And we always say, never use just before play.
Oh,
Play
please.
in and of itself is what it's all about. And if you're watching or listening to this Porch Play Chat, you probably already know that, because you're in the IPA website, and you're a play advocate yourself. But so many parents think that play is less important than academics or cognitive learning, and they don't understand the connection between it. So, and I think if we can really educate parents at the same time, it will just benefit all of us when it comes to knowing what's best for kids, which is to let them play.
Yeah, and parents can be extremely bright. You can have an extremely bright, person who's a parent, and they just still don't get it. I can tell you, I urged my sister to send her children to a nature school, and they went, and they were out in all kinds of weather, and it was an amazing program. And even then, my sister, who's a high school Latin teacher, said to me at one point, but is she gonna be ready for kindergarten? Because she really isn't coming home with papers or anything. Like, what is she? And my sister's a smart person, and she gets it. And she still is just like, whoa, like I want my child to do the best. Is she getting the best, that she needs? And I'm like, absolutely. And her daughter, by the way, was reading at like a, fourth grade level in first grade. So
Yeah.
It all comes together, but people don't see that right when they're in it. They really don't. They're just very worried. They want their child to do the best they can.
I think it goes back to sometimes parents are so focused on getting their child ready because of their own school experience wasn't that pleasant, right? So, oh, I wasn't good in math, or I really didn't score well on those tests. And so they think, well, I don't want my child to do that. And so then they push these academics, which are actually going to create the situation that they're trying to avoid, because their children don't have that opportunity to build those foundational skills that they need to learn higher level thinking later on in life. So I think that those words, Kathy, that you were using to help teachers recognize that what children are doing, if you can explain it in higher adult learning vocabulary, it will help parents understand that their child is not just playing. I still have,
Deb,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, you go first.
No, you just, I'm writing things down because I'm old and I forget things that I think are important to say. But when you were just speaking, I thought about two things. One of them, at least where we live in Boston, and we see a lot of disequity in programs. And I'm guessing it's not just a Boston thing or a New England thing. I'm guessing it's out there. But what we see is that a lot of the programs in the inner cities, with children who are there because they're on a subsidy, or they're in specialized programs, have high academic focus, and they're pushing the academics and the skill drilling, and then the kids whose parents have the ability to financially pay for some of, LeeAnn and I call them the bougie schools, but we have bougie schools in Boston where the preschool rate is like a college tuition or higher sometimes. And those kids are outside playing in the mud. And we see a disequity racially and economically, with different types of kids and different types of programs. So that bothers me a lot. So I'll just say that. The other thing I'll say is, you have the opportunity as an educator that you don't have to know everything yourself. We don't like technology and screens and stuff like that around kids, but you should use them to your benefit. And you have a wealth of information at your fingertips. So if you are sitting there and you're saying, oh, I know it's good for the kids to go up the slide, but my co-teacher doesn't understand, or my director doesn't want that, or the parents are worried, that kind of thing. You can go online or you can use artificial intelligence and go on Chat GPT and type in, why is it good for kids to go up the slide? And they will give you all kinds of big words. And then you can take them and figure out what you're comfortable with. We don't want you to just, pull out a script, but we want you to think about that. We were at one of the national conferences recently, and we showed the group of people in our session what you can get from AI, and jaws were dropping. People were just like, you just made my life so much easier. Thank you so much. Because at the end of the day, you don't have a lot of time to talk about what the child learned because the parent's in a hurry and all of that. But there are other ways, and we can talk more about strategies and helpful things for educators. But use your resources so that you're not just saying they had fun today, or we learned a lot. What did you learn, and how did you learn it? And how did that connect back to what the parents are worried about?
Well, and I think the big piece about that is once they have this vocabulary, then they can, I'm always one that says, put a piece of paper with all these vocabulary words that you want to communicate with parents or to parents about. And I always say, stick them in on a piece of paper inside one of your cupboards. And then at the, when you're writing the daily, what did we do today? Or you're talking to parents, you can go over to that and say, oh yeah, we did physics today, and we did math, and we did literacy, and this is how we did it.
Exactly.
And then you don't have to memorize it all. You can just remind yourself of which ones you did. You could even put it on your lesson plans. This is what we've planned, and this play experience will provide your child with blah, blah, blah. So there's all of these techniques, but when we're making it visible, how can they make it visible in the classroom? What are some strategies that
one of the things we always suggest is whatever you have in your classroom, be conscious of what's on your walls. It should not be things from, that you purchase. It shouldn't be the bear holding a triangle. It shouldn't be, we've gone into some programs, presidents along the wall. The children don't know what that is. But you want to make sure that what is on your wall, we always say it's prime real estate, your wall. Make sure that you're putting up the children's work, and then you make it almost like a museum. The children are using craypas today. These are some of the skills that they learned while they were using the craypas. These are some of the things we heard. Maybe you take a picture of some of the children using the craypas and you put that up so that it makes a really nice connection for parents. And then they get to see, my child's working with the craypas. This is what they learned. These are the skills that they built. And then they get to see the actual work. So instead of it looking like just scribbles coming home, they start to understand the importance of those scribbles. And
I was just going to say, you can look up, the
stages,
trajectory of scribbles and the stages of scribbles, and include that and say, your infant is at stage 3 in scribbling. This is amazing. Those are easy things to do, LeeAnn. And I think you're right. It's all about documentation. And if you spend less time planning ahead for things that you think children should be playing with or learning, and spend more time really observing and listening, you will collect all the information you need to know what children want to do. And then you'll have more time at the end to take pictures that you can build beautiful boards or wall displays, or send things home on social media, or whatever it is that you do to communicate with families. Most people think, oh, I don't have time for that because I have so many behaviors. But if you're doing all these things, you'll have less behaviors and you'll have more time on the back end. When we went to Reggio Emilia, that was one of the things that we really saw. Teachers didn't spend a lot of time on the front end with plans. They spent a lot of time reflecting and talking to each other and saying, oh, because we saw the children do this, why don't we provide this tomorrow? And how can we document that? So I think documentation is a big piece of it all.
Absolutely. And I think
go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm plugging myself in. So hold on just a second.
No, we don't want to lose you. Plug in.
I know, that's why I'm like, hurry,
I thought you were putting on a seatbelt for a minute, Deb. I said, where are you going? Are you on a plane?
I'm plugging myself in, hoping it doesn't die on me.
Yes, but I think also a big piece and one of the things I see in my classes teaching, and I think Kathy sees this too, you might say, how many of you are really good at math? With our early childhood teachers, and you see maybe one or two people raise their hand. So I think that there's a fear of, I don't know math, I can't teach math, and letting them know that when you do, look at something and you start to be comfortable, like you said, Deb, those words start to become comfortable with you, and you start to understand them yourself, the language and the lingo for math or science and things like that, that a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not really good at science, so that's why I don't do a lot of science with the kids." It's like, it's basic stuff that you can do and and it doesn't have to be on this high level. But once you do get the words and you start to use those words regularly, it starts to become familiar to you, and you feel more comfortable using them when you're explaining things to parents. So I think that's something too. I think the fear of, I don't know. Ooh.
The thing to really think about is that if we truly believe in play and playful learning, and that children do really learn through play, then I think it's critical that we figure out how to measure it. And that's the key, I think.
Yes.
Other types of learning are easy to measure. Playful learning is more difficult to measure. So we don't have a checklist, and we don't have a screening or an assessment tool that really looks at play. But when we think about how we want to be research-based with our curriculum, all the research points to play. And it's really important for us as the practitioners to fully understand that, and to believe that, and to promote it, and to not shy away from it. So I would say, don't be afraid to just authentically assess children. I've noticed LeeAnn playing with the markers, and she kept saying purple, red, purple, red, purple, red, purple, red, and then she went around and she put her marker up on somebody's sweatshirt, and they had a purple sweatshirt on. So she's making those connections. So just that simple activity was a learning activity, and it wasn't something that the teacher scripted or planned, or, had to check off on some sort of a screening or assessment tool, but it's knowledge that you put away, and you say, I know that child knows purple and red. So
yeah. And Kathy, too, I think another thing, when you think about authentic assessment, I think one of the best pieces of authentic assessment is portfolios. And I don't think people understand portfolios as well as they should, because they are so valuable. To have children just stand in a line and see who can stand on one foot is one thing. That's just, yep, check off, check off, check off. But to actually, look at children individually and in a group, and then document it as a portfolio with a picture, the information about the child, and then the parent can see the growth happening with that portfolio. I mean, that's priceless as far as I'm concerned. I
And
think
it can
it's
be
so
as
valuable.
simple as something electronic, or even better, probably a binder, so you can slide children's work into it. And a lot of teachers right now are thinking, oh my God, one more thing for me to do. I don't have time for that. And if you can make the time for the right things, I'll say, maybe not the best choice of words, but if you can observe more and listen more and document more, your day will be easier. You'll make better connections. You'll be a better teacher. You'll be a reflective practitioner. Like, all those things that make really good teachers will come around full circle for you. And you'll see less behavior challenges. You'll see less issues with parents not trusting that, their kids will be ready, and all that kind of thing. It takes investment. It takes an investment of your time and your energy and your commitment, or a resolution to say, I'm going to make this my goal, to be a teacher that really follows the lead of the children, and lets them learn through play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we always say this, but so much in the United States has been planned, pushing it down. So we started at senior year, and then what do we need to know, freshman year? What do we need to know as middle schoolers? And it got pushed down, and we need to push that up. We need to share some of that awesome early childhood information and share it up, because I think, if we do a good job in the early childhood field, well, I think that public schools especially will start to see it and say, oh, okay, we need to make some changes here. And we know kindergarten should not be the new first grade. We say that all the time. Kindergarten.
And what will happen? Third grade reading scores, which is the pinnacle of success, right? third grade reading scores will go up if kids play more.
We
And
know
we have this
that.
authentic type of stuff. We know. And that's another really excellent point. So all of you who are listening to this, you know that. You're early childhood people. Lawmakers don't know that. That's the problem. Lawmakers, and probably, I'm sorry if I, annoy people, but some superintendents don't know this. Lots of principals don't know this because they know other ages and stages and
Yeah, and I want to say the
you know.
majority of superintendents, we've met actually a couple that are from early childhood recently, but
Correct.
which is awesome. But most superintendents, most principals are from older grades. Even if you're a principal coming into an elementary school, it's usually an older, they come from older.
Talking about how lawmakers and principals and superintendents don't understand that the play research is what we should be looking at. So, they want to see data-driven kinds of things, but you can collect data. We talked about portfolios and we talked about how you can
assessment.
collect things, but if we can follow children and that magical third grade reading score, marker that everybody likes to use, we will do so much better if more of us just focus on the play and don't shy away from it. I would flaunt it. I would just say, we are a play-based program. And let me tell you what that means. And it means that like true play, what Peter Gray describes as play. He's one of our Boston guys at Boston College. If you don't know Dr. Gray, look up his work on play. But play is what children decide. It's not teachers deciding 3 weeks in advance what we're going to focus on that week kind of thing. So for many of you, it might be a shift in the way that you do your planning and your work, but baby steps. And then we need to tell school committees and we need to get parents on board. Parents are huge. They can rally and support the notion of children truly playing.
That ties back to why making the learning visible is so important and getting parents on board. And that's key.
I absolutely agree. And I think the pieces that the schools are missing, and it's almost like I want to have I want to send, I feel like for example, when we had the current administration for 10 more days, IPA USA should have been sending articles to the person who was from the white paper who was responsible for implementing policy. So those are things that I'm thinking we might be able to do in the upcoming administration with the persons, to find out who the policy person is and start sending things just to keep them aware and to say, if you want to improve test scores, here's how you do it. If you want to do this is how you do it. And
you know what, Deb, think of the money too. All about the money. They will save so much money if they look at this information because, I started reading in first grade. I remember being one of the first readers in first grade. Now, if you're not reading in kindergarten, reading specialists, the red flags go, let's get an IEP going, for this child, because, we need to get, individualized, services for the child. Think of all the money that would be saved if we just went with children and how they develop naturally versus pushing it all down on them. There would be a lot of money saved. So maybe if we went with the view of money, because that tends to lead everything, it might have an effect because really, school systems are spending a lot of unnecessary money. And what happens is they send this message to this child that you can't read yet, and the child just feels like a failure right off the bat. And then, you're struggling with this child for years and years and years and, all the services. It's just like so much would be changed if that was the case, so much.
Well, and the other big piece is the poor schools and the superintendents who are feeling so much pressure buy all these crazy programs and apps and that they're going to give children that don't give them any results, and yet they keep using them. So just imagine how much teachers could be paid if we just went back to stop it. Stop what you're doing.
Trust the teachers. Stop trying to push all this stuff on them. And like teachers get it. Teachers know they need to trust teachers more.
They
And
need
send
to
some
trust.
decision makers outside of the United States to learn about how other countries do things. I
Mhm.
think that in the United States, we tend to think that, you know, we're the kings or the queens of everything. And man, some other parts of the world really understand. And a lot of people will say to us, yeah, but you know, the United States isn't Finland. And I say, the United States is not Finland, but your town is probably smaller than Finland. Your school is probably smaller than Finland. So if the country can do these things and they don't worry about kids reading until they're 7 or 8, if they even worry, because they know kids are going to read, and the illiteracy rates are unfathomably excellent. You know, it's just not
Excellent.
anything we can do here, but you could do it in your community. And, you know, the IPA, the International Play Association, can send white papers to the White House that people might read. You're thinking, well, I'm just one person out here and wherever I live, but you can do something right in your own community. So if you believe the importance of this and the value of this and you want it to go further, then start that pebble in the river, you know, start that ripple effect and get your parents on board, get your teams on board, and then start with your community and keep reaching out, because otherwise we're going to be in a mess. You know, we're really going to be in a mess.
We're already in a mess.
I
Well,
was
think
just
that
going to say that was a little Pollyanna. We are already in a mess, you
we're in
know.
a mess. And
Yeah,
children are suffering because of that.
absolutely.
mess.
Yep.
So if we, let's just say, if all meaningful work is done locally. So if you go IPAUSA.org/white paper, that's all you need. If you go to the white paper and you say, I could send this to my school superintendent, there's one in there on why standardized tests don't work. There's one in there on why play is important and why children need those foundational skills. There's one in there on curriculum and why the curriculum is the child. The teacher is not the curriculum. And so if you who are listening can go put some pebbles, throw them into that pond and create some disruption in an academically focused way, you might be the person that can create the change within your community. And if you have questions, there are lots of people here to help you. So, I think that
I love that, Deb. I love that, because you're also making your own learning visible, and you're making the field of early childhood visible when they say, wow, I got this paper from a toddler teacher down the street, and I didn't know how important any of this was. So I think a lot of people minimize, we're so far off track of all the making learning visible, but this is really, really good. I think people don't recognize how smart we all are. All of you out there working with kids, the infant teacher that people think, oh, she's so nice, she's rocking the babies and, burping them. You are a brain architect. You are doing so much with your day to day. If you were to deliver a white paper to your school committee or to your superintendent or to your mayor or whatever it is, or to anybody, they would be like, oh, I didn't know that. And wouldn't that push our value up a little bit more? And wouldn't that bring us a little further in line with a true profession, with professional rates and professional respect from communities? I just think that's fantastic.
Well, and it is a way to make learning visible. It's just we're doing it at a different level. So
Correct.
if we can use the tools that we have, and there's so many tools out there, that will make an impact locally. That's why I'm wanting to do state chapters of IPA USA, because then we can support those state chapters in making learning visible and what early childhood really is, and grow each state that way. Maybe then we can have a snowball effect where it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it becomes so noisy, which is what we need. It becomes so noisy that people start to listen.
Yes.
That was one of the things I was saying just a little bit earlier, but don't hide play and don't be ashamed of play. I said to flaunt it, like get out there and speak about it, because we have students who in the early elementary grades that they say they have to hide play when they know it's best, but they have to hide it because they're afraid that other people will tell them they can't do that, or get those kids back inside. They've been outside too long, kinds of messaging, you know?
Well, unfortunately, the shelter in place, that's one good thing, is the shelter in place, you know, the little
The shade in your
pulled down
window.
so that they say, so that children can play. I'm just like, oh my goodness, you know, that's just insane. But I have to say,
don't
I actually,
apologize for it. You know,
I
don't
know.
like this is what we do and this is what we believe. Go ahead, LeeAnn. I'm sorry.
No, I have to say that I just love the fact that making learning visible for children has kind of, you know, circled to making learning visible for the practitioners as well, because that's another such an important piece. So make your learning, the more you learn about the importance of play, share it, you know, yell it from the rooftops because it's so important.
Well, and I think that's the key to growing the profession and to getting people who in their heart know that children should be doing this, but they're so afraid to get in trouble.
Yes.
And that's what I see in my classrooms, in my college classrooms. I correlate it to when graduate programs in my state of Pennsylvania took advocacy out of the grad program. So when I was teaching grad programs, advocacy was in, and we did an entire semester on leadership and advocacy. And those now have disappeared to become more focused on academics. And so people don't know how to advocate for themselves, and they're afraid of getting in trouble. So, and I understand everybody needs a job, but in the state of looking for high quality teachers in this country, or a high quality elementary school teacher, primary grade teacher, you will not lose your job right now. So,
that is true. That is true. So speak out.
Speak out. It is crazy.
And you're right, Deb, the advocacy piece is so important. Kathy does a great job of teaching a course at Salem State. And it's just that, and she has mentioned before, you know, such great papers come out of that, such great, you know, insight from the students. It's just, it's empowering. And when you have a great advocacy kind of, you know, a course or a program or someone supporting you with that advocacy, yes.
Yeah. Oh, so any final beautiful thoughts before I go back in and have to edit this whole thing because of my little and what was so funny, since I'm editing, I can tell you. So I have 2 computers up right now. I always have a backup computer. When we lost it on the first computer, I still don't have, oh, now I have the internet showing on the first computer. On the second computer, I had to reboot the whole thing. So anyway, that's what took me so very long, but I'm so glad you kept going.
Nope, kept going.
And if it didn't work out, we will come back and talk to you again. So, you know, we can, don't worry about it if it
I
didn't
can
work.
go in and edit little snippets. So it'll be fine. Just the backgrounds will be different because I'm on a different computer. Okay, so final thoughts, and then I'll get our next person in.
Good. Thanks for listening. We could talk about this all day, certainly, but and thanks to IPA, the Porch Play Chats are wonderful. I'm glad that you found us here. We are at twopushydames.com. And if you want to reach out, we're on the TikTok and the Instagram and Facebook. If you want to follow us at Two Pushy Dames, we'd love it. And keep doing the good work that you're doing. LeeAnn, I don't know if you want to add to that.
This was just awesome. I love it. Always love chatting with you, Deb, on your porch.
Yeah, and I think finding play advocates like we have found you across the United States, that's the other thing we can do as leaders, is we can continue to grow, just as we talked about in the beginning with grad students. Those grad students, we need to help them. And
our motto, you can all use it, is push back on the push down. That's why we call ourselves the Pushy Dames. You know, push back on that push down. When they say we want those kindergartners doing this higher level work, you say no, and you say it's not okay for them. And as Deb said, you won't get fired. And if you do, we'll help you find a new job.
We will.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Always looking for good play people. All right. Thank you so much. So to learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks,
If-
Deb.
Can you see your record button? Is it still there?